We will call to order this meeting of the West Linn-Wilsonville School Board this evening. And Shyla, would you please call roll?
Director Heights.
Here.
Director Thompson.
Here.
Chair Maltor.
Here.
Director Fitch.
Here.
Vice Chair King.
Present. All right. We will now move on to district communications. And unfortunately, Caitlin Finn became ill today, and so she's not here to share with us about what's been going on at Arts and Technology High School. But we will then move on to West Linn High School and Avery Fells.
Good evening, Dr. Ludwig, Dr. Downs, and school board members. My name is Avery Fells, and I appreciate, again, the opportunity to share with you what's happening this month at West Linn. November at West Linn was very eventful. Our canned food drive ran from November 13th through the 21st. Kicking off the can collection was our annual Powder Tough volleyball tournament with an impressive number of teams that came out to play and show support for such a great cause. The winning team had the opportunity to play our 5th in state varsity girls volleyball team at the Fall Recognition Assembly on the Friday before break, and, no surprise, our amazing girls team won once again. This assembly was a great chance to recognize all of our outstanding fall activities, competitors, and sports. It was a day full of Lion pride. We also revealed our 2019 canned food drive collection total at the assembly. If you will remember, our goal was 100 banana boxes full of non-perishable food, 100 to commemorate our centennial year. I'm so incredibly proud to announce that not only did we reach that goal, but our students, staff, and community members destroyed it, collecting a grand total of 150 boxes for our partner, the Oregon City Elks Lodge. We were also very pleased that our Dollar Day collected $405.06 for the West Linn Food Pantry. So that was super cool to see our community coming together for that. The fall sports season has come to a close. Volleyball had a great season, finishing 5th in state, with girls soccer making it to state quarterfinals and boys soccer making it to the first round. Unified soccer had a really great season too. The boys cross country team was 3rd in district, and the girls cross country team was 1st in district and 9th in state. That was super exciting. Our football team, in their final season with Coach Chris Miller, were defeated by Central Catholic in the quarterfinal round, but played a really hard, really good game. Our debutantes and cheer team are continuing to rehearse for upcoming competitions, and winter sports practices have already begun with wrestling, and basketball starting competitions this week. As for the performing arts, my personal favorite, our fall musical Chicago High School Edition had an extremely successful run, full of razzle-dazzle, and thank you again for those of you that joined us. On November 19th, our exceptional jazz band won the TRL title again, with an auditorium full of students and staff to support them. Auditions for our upcoming production of the 2 plays, These Shining Lives and A Number, are taking place next week, and rehearsals will begin shortly after. Our improv troupe, The Den, will perform on December 19th and 20th in the Black Box Theater, and we will also have our winter concerts in December with choir on the 16th, orchestra on the 17th, and band on the 18th. As always, we invite you to join us at any of those nights or all of those nights, and maybe I'll see you there. Our annual Mr. Ms. MX West Linn competition will take place during the week of December 9th. Seniors will be participating in a week full of dressing up, school spirit, and preparing for a fun-filled pageant on Friday the 13th. Most importantly, the activities fundraising this year will benefit West Linn High School's Sources of Strength program, which educates students and staff specifically on mental health issues, suicide prevention, and being an active community member in several meaningful ways. And finally, today, our leadership ASB class started planning our annual 10 Days of Joy, which will begin next Monday. Each day, we will reveal either a gift the student's body will be giving in service, a gift they will be receiving, or an opportunity for them to express gratitude. We find that it's not only a scientifically proven way to generate happiness in our students and staff, but an opportunity for them to become more aware and more supportive of other members of their Lion family and greater community. So that was a lot. Thank you for listening. Thank you so much for your time, and I look forward to seeing you all next month.
Thank you. and Lindsay Hartford from Wilsonville High School. Please come on up.
Happy December, Dr. Ludwig and School Board. It is nice to be back again as we shift into the winter mindset. For the November recap, I have some fantastic news from Wilsonville. We are so proud that the Wildcat boys and girls soccer team took second in the state tournament. In addition, the volleyball team also placed second after playing in the state tournament. Girls cross country are in third place and the boys took fourth, while the football team placed eighth in state, and they all had fantastic seasons. I'm also excited to say that our holiday bazaar at the end of the month was a great success. We raised over $7,000 all to donate to Dornbecker's Children's Hospital, and everyone had a fantastic time. Cinderella was also a ball for everyone involved, and this week students will be auditioning for our winter play, The Imaginary Invalid. Looking ahead to December, students will be performing in the Winter Instrumental and Vocal Concert on December 11th from 7 to 9 in our auditorium. Also in the auditorium, on December 17th and 18th from 7 to 9, Wilsonville will host a winter festival of music. This is a combination of choirs, bands, jazz band, and orchestra. There is a $5 admission to this event, and all the proceeds will go towards supporting our music programs. So we invite you to come out and enjoy some music on your Tuesday or Wednesday night. Winter sports are getting ready to compete, such as wrestling, equestrian, and basketball. In addition, snowboarding and skiing, plus swimming teams will be starting up soon. A tradition that many students look forward to at Wilsonville is our annual Winter Wishes. This is where every student and teacher gets to write down a wish and submit it to leadership students. Then the leadership students review them, and throughout the weeks we grant these wishes. Students will be receiving everything from Starbucks to fuzzy socks, and we will grant about 5 to 10 per grade level and teachers. Wilsonville is looking festive as over break many leadership and NHS students decorated for winter with snowflakes, snowmen, and lights that light up the school. Students are excited for upcoming Spirit Week and lunchtime activities the week of December 16th when we have our winter assembly. Also, during the professional development days, Wilsonville staff committed to give 100% of our staff to 100% of our students. We know that the school board also gives 100% for 100%, so we have some buttons for each of you today. And the athletic schedule will continue as we head into winter break, and I'd like to wish you all a happy holidays, and I will see you next year.
And as Lindsay is passing out these buttons, I will put her on the spot and also acknowledge that she was a member of that volleyball team that placed second in the state. So congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, we will move on to our recognitions portion, and I have Dr. Swayson coming up to recognize one of our own. Dr. Sebastian, Principal Sebastian. Thank you.
So we are proud and happy to be able to recognize Joel Sebastian and an organization, the Holistic Peace Institute, that truly exemplify those words on the wall of creating learning communities for greatest thinkers and thoughtful people for the world. The Holistic Peace Institute is an organization that started in Canby in 1999, and their sole purpose was to bring together, starting with Nobel laureates, some of those who could work with students, middle school students, high school students, university students, to think of the ideas around peaceful conflict resolution and humanitarian projects. Nancy Spanovich here is one of the founders of that organization. They have brought Arun Gandhi to the United States. They have brought Andrew Young, and Arun Gandhi were at AP Creek Middle School. And our own Joel Sebastian has been involved with this organization for 11 years?
18.
Okay, 18, almost as long as they have been in existence. And creating that culture around projects at your school that honor that is part of the work. So this year, he was recognized as someone who did bring and exemplify leadership for the Holistic Peace Institute. And was honored with the Harold Schnitzer 2011 award from them. He was recognized in Salem about 10 days ago, and Dr. Ludwig attended that ceremony as well. And we are very proud of what that stands for and the work that he has been doing year after year to have this happen at Athey Creek. And Joel, I'd like you to just say a few things about your work, put you on the spot.
Right, yeah, wonderful. Well, oftentimes when I talk about my work with the Holistic Peace Institute, my mom likes to chime in and say, like, that's the most important thing you're ever going to do as an educator. And I think it's a compelling argument when you think about really the values around nonviolence and conflict resolution. It's something that I think is at the heart and soul of teaching the whole child. And so it's just been a pleasure of mine to work with the Institute for 18 years. And Nancy's colleague, Gary Spanovich, who's not here tonight, but was the person that I worked with so long ago. We started with an assembly of 5 Tibetan monks that did a dance, in front of kids 18 years ago. And so that kind of launched it to where we brought former heads of state, Nobel laureates, world-famous peacemakers to school to put in front of children and interact with kids in all sorts of different ways. And so I've always shared a lot of the Holistic Peace Institute's vision that young people really can learn incredible lessons from Nobel laureates, and in some ways they are, in a sense, like the public consciousness for the world. So it's just really truly a deep honor for me to be recognized by the Holistic Peace Institute, to have my colleagues come. I was totally surprised that happened, and so I really appreciate that. It's a great place to work. And how we support each other. And Nancy and I continue to work together in projects, and it's just a really great pleasure. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Joel, and thank you, Nancy. Nancy, would you like to say something about the Institute?
I have a couple of things. Just one thing I wanted to say. On the last Wednesday, the 20th, that was our 11th annual Spirit of Unity Assembly, whereby our institute gives cash prizes, or we call them mini grants, because they have to apply, and those winning schools then conduct a peace club or a peace project for the following year. And so what it is it teaches sort of extracurricular with a very inclusive agenda whereby those students lead. So I wanted to just read a couple of messages of why we think Joel epitomizes what this is in terms of educating for peace. And I also wanted to point out that the top 3 goals on there are ones that he achieves just by partnering with us and having his school being a winning school. Way back when he was, I think, associate principal, he was involved with this in Canby. And I just wanted to read this first few phrases. This is from my speech when we presented him with the award. He has a great love and dedication for higher learning. Joel has a way of allowing every student their unique voice, and for empowering each student, each faculty, each staff at his school to work at their highest potential. Let's say he believes in cultivating a community that embraces diversity, loosens the chains of ignorance or prejudice, awakens students' souls to seek knowledge, and be one with the spirit that transcends beyond common coarse language of us versus them, fear, or racism. Joel is a husband to a talented peacemaker and teacher, who's here tonight, and a father to 2 successful sons. He's been principal and a partner with the Holistic Peace Institute for, I guess, 18 years, and he encouraged his entire school community to work diligently at communicating and coordinating efforts for equity and justice. He brought President F.W. de Klerk to his school so his students could learn about apartheid in South Africa. he honored the season of nonviolence with hosting Arun Gandhi, the great-grandson of Mahatma Gandhi. And he had his students compose poetry and serve them tea before school. So these are the kinds of things that we like to see in a administrator, and we'd like to encourage all school districts to encourage their administrators and educators to do this slight new look on approaching their district goals. We know that Joel has a lot of good resources, so I wanted to just bring that out. And in the season of giving, I got a little gift for each of you. These are all different. They're not the same.
Thank you. Joe?
Well, if you'll just stay up, I think board members may want to say a word or two. And I also want to recognize Amy Sebastian, Amy Wave, extraordinary teacher, also in the district at Bolton Primary School. Great partner, I know. And again, just echoing the words that have been shared, that Joel, along with your colleagues, your other principal colleagues, were just so fortunate to have leadership at the helm that really takes seriously the notion of greatest thinkers and most thoughtful people for the world. And unless you're really intentional, some of those parts can get missed here or there. There's the busyness of a school year and a lot of really important goals. But you've been steadfast in that work, and you've also invited us along with you. And it's made our district better and stronger and more thoughtful for the world. So it's a great honor and very well deserved that you've received this from the Institute. So really proud of you, and most importantly, proud of your kids, your students, because they had to step into that vision and embrace it as well and see it as something that they wanted for their school. And you helped them get there, and it's been a better school because of that. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Just briefly, Mr. Sebastian, I've been in your school, and the evidence of your efforts resounds in your hallways, and this is something that one has to stay focused on, and that kind of culture is intentional and practiced daily. And I just want to let you know that I have seen evidence of it in your school and in our community there, and thank you for your efforts.
Oh, don't go away yet. Joel, I just wanted to say thank you. It's in a time when there's just so much conflict and people showing us how to disagree, it gives me as a parent and as a board member a lot of hope to know that there are educators out there like you who are spreading the idea of peace to our young people. And so again, to our board goal of creating better members of our community and world. And I think it's powerful that we have leaders in our schools who are bringing peacemakers to the forefront as heroes, because so often warriors and generals are the heroes, but to have somebody who's a fighter for peace is really powerful. And so thank you for lighting that fire under our students.
Just add my quick 2 cents. It's just that the acknowledgement that as much fun as it is to embarrass you while you're standing up here, the real winners of this award are your students and the years after years after years of students that you've helped touch and impact. And so thank you for your dedication to this work and your service, as well as just bringing this knowledge to our students. So thank you very much. And Nancy, thank you as well for being here tonight, as well as your partnership, your organization's partnership with Joel and our schools. Good.
Did you bring your award to show us?
I did not.
Oh.
I forgot it.
Okay.
I have a little paper copy.
We were chuckling a little bit. It had quite a bit of acknowledgement in it, and I said, Joel, there's more on it than what you'll get for your dissertation when you complete your doctorate, because those displays are pretty sparse. But so great. Thank you, Nancy. I'll pass that along. very well deserved, and thank you also, Nancy, for being here tonight. I know you made that journey special to do this, so thank you.
We will now move on to our board and then superintendent reports. And for our board reports this month, our board members took it upon themselves to make visits to share visits to all of our schools across the district during the first couple months of the school year. And so they're going to use their board report time to just share back with the rest of us about their school visits and what they learned about individual schools' work plans and goals for their students this year. So that will be the content of our board reports. And Ginger, just real fast, did you want to provide your admonishment real quickly?
I'm a local attorney. I represent students. I may represent students and parents in our district, and a matter may come before the board that materially benefits one of my clients. If it does, I will abstain from participating in the discussion or decisions on the matter without disclosing the identity of my client.
And Chelsea, would you like to start us off?
Hello, everyone. Typically, during our board reports, we give a bit of an overview of activities that we've participated in. But as Chair Molitor articulated, it's a little different this time because we actually toured. We divided up the schools in our district and toured them. I would like to just take 3 seconds to say I did have a couple highlights that were not touring those schools, one of which was the opportunity to present at the Oregon School Boards Association around inclusive practices in our district, and also an opportunity to meet with Chair Molitor and Dr. Aaron Downs and Dr. Ludwig about recent events at Westland High School, and to talk about what has been done there and what will be done in the future. And so those were a couple of highlights I just wanted to take a moment to touch on. And then I had the opportunity to tour Bolton Primary, Stafford Primary, and Rosemont Ridge Middle School. And it's just a nice departure from how we used to do it as a school board, where we would sit in this room and all the principals would come in and they would all give these lengthy reports about all the great work that they're doing, and it was very formal. And I think this is the second year that we're doing it this way, where we actually go in, and I know each of my learning walkthroughs took a couple hours, and it's a chance for me as a board member to go into the classroom, observe the teaching in action, and sit down with the principal and have just a deeper dive into the work that's happening at the school. So I'll just spend a couple of minutes and highlight the themes that I saw across all the schools, and then just touch on like a point or two of each school that I think makes it special. So the biggest theme that I could point to right now is just the intentionality in our principals' efforts. The school culture is not happening by accident. It's not left to chance. The principals are very purposeful in what they want their outcomes to be, and the moves they're going to take to reach those outcomes. I saw a desire to give teachers autonomy and creative license in their classrooms, while also creating consistency across the classroom experience. And one of the ways that was achieved was by creating opportunities for our teachers to collaborate with each other, and for teachers to teach other teachers about what they're doing in their classrooms that work, and using that time to team up and align instructional strategies. All three of the schools that I toured had a distinct focus on the social, emotional, behavioral learning, and that was evidenced in data that they're collecting on observable behaviors, and the application of curriculum that's designed to target social and emotional learning. And really, all three of these schools are finding ways to continue to measure the outcomes of this learning, teaching and learning, and just to continue to improve outcomes with the social and emotional behavior. And restorative practices was another piece that I saw schools focusing on. I either witnessed it in a school, actually a bunch of students sitting in a circle talking about Veterans Day because that was coming up. And so they were talking about what does it mean to be a veteran and what does Veterans Day mean to them, and tossing around a Beanie Baby, so working on some hand-eye coordination as well as talking and listening. And it was, for me, just evidence of building in things like restorative circles into even just, everyday teaching and learning. There was definitely a focus on office referrals and behavioral, like how to address behavioral issues that come up, and trying to standardize or codify that. So how do we handle referring students to the office? When do we do it? What happens when we do it? Who knows about it? Why do we do it? And just dialogue at each of the schools about that process. So that was a commonality as well. And then one of my favorite things is the integration of the student voice. And so definitely some intentionality around, are we listening to our students? Do they have the opportunity to speak? And where are they speaking, and how are we listening? And I saw that all the way from the littlest ones in math, all the way up to the middle school students who were leaders of different student organizations, being in the room with myself and the principal, talking about their experience at school. And, it's not all good. There are kiddos that, are called names on the playground. And so, they were able to talk about what that's like for them, and the principal and myself were there listening, as well as one of our assistant superintendents. And then I would say one other commonality is that there's just the use of data. In all of the schools, they're using data. So they're linking their work plans to our district goals, and they're using numbers. They're talking about where they are now, where they want to be, and what moves they plan on taking to get there. So that was also very evident. I would say just a brief highlight about each school. I had the nice contradiction where at Bolton there's a brand new principal, and well, he's not brand new to our district, but he's brand new as the principal at Bolton, and to be able to see the moves that a brand new principal can make as far as that fresh perspective, what systems need to be improved or fine-tuned or tightened, and so being able to see that juxtaposed with the principal at Rosemont Ridge, who's been there for many, many years, is clearly well respected and has that longevity and the benefits that come with that. And so that was neat just to see that there's strength in both of those positions. And then Stafford. Stafford has a very strong focus on mathematics right now and is applying an equity lens to their focus on improving outcomes in mathematical learning. And so that would be kind of my big takeaways from each of those. I could go on, but I know we have 4 other people who want to speak. I will just say one other thing about the process. And that's just that I continue to prefer this over the more formal sit-down where we listen to all the principals at one time. I appreciate getting to know the principals on more of a one-on-one level, and I love going into the classroom and seeing it in action. I think it gives me a window into our schools that I wouldn't have otherwise. So, thanks.
I'm going to start there. I agree. I like the process of going to the schools. This time, I only met with students and additional staff at one school, but I was all right with both processes. I still got the information about what was going on in the school and went into the classrooms. I think that's the other component that was important for me, is to be able to see the learning in the classrooms. So I went to 3 schools, and it occurs to me that you probably, as fellow board members, don't know what the work plan is for the school, so I'm going to talk a little bit about the materials I got and then some of my observations. So I went, and I also want to share what part of my process is. We received the district and school work plans from this year, and then also in our learning about data, we got the work plans and the data from last year, and so I combined those and just made some observations about, hey, looks like the school would need to be working on math. I wonder what I'm going to hear about math. Or the school has an issue with attendance for a particular group of cohort of students, and I would expect to hear about that. And that indeed is what has happened for me, but I think it was helpful to be informed beforehand about the data from the schools. So I think in terms of process, I think it's important to have the report cards before we go in and to have data when we go forward. At Lowry, I want to first shout out a dual language teacher who is really the model for class teaching, is Silvana Baladares. And I just want to shout out for the work that she's doing there and the leadership and modeling she's providing to the other teachers in the dual language program and extended beyond that. The Lowry, the mission is, how do we create and nurture a community that promotes social and academic excellence for every student every day? And the way they're doing that is they're using their time to look at data. They have map data teams that met the week before I had been there. So they're looking at growth from year to year, and they understand the interdependence of attendance to that, and are looking at their child study team about how they can provide child-friendly efforts to increase attendance. They're also using structured talk protocols. And I would note that this goes to really the first and second goals in our district, and I saw this in all three schools, the level of thoughtfulness and using research and tools that the teachers and principals have about how to educate and what works and what moves the dial is very intentionally used when they're looking at the data and they're implementing their school plans. So they're looking at the workshop models at Lowry to determine best practices in literacy and a framework for their math as well. The other thing that I thought was important that they're doing at Lowry, they're assessing a student's strengths to be able to reach equitable outcomes. So how do we look at a particular student's strength in order to encourage improvement in math? How do we highlight that? My observations in the classrooms, they are focusing again on a lot their professional development. They're reading together, and they're looking at their data from last year and comparing it for this year, making instructional moves as teams. And 9 of their staff attended a leadership conference, and now I don't have it, but they're doing things together as a team to improve their collective learning and help for their students. In observations in the classroom, just really, the things that I saw last year were like, we need to have on the wall what the expected outcomes are. Like, we weren't even talking about that this year, but it was in every classroom because I looked. So it's just become a routine, and you go in and students, everybody knows. So for me, what I learned in going in the classroom is, one, is we're just doing those things from year to year. We're improving every year in what we're doing. And that just has become routine. And the other thing is just the complexity of the learning and the student voice also in the different classrooms. And we're talking kindergarten classrooms, which were just amazing education going on at Lowry. And at Boone's Ferry, their goal is to treat each other well, strive for excellence, do our best to learn, and take care of this place. And the shout out there is to the instructional coordinator, Derek Porter, who has created some amazing posters and worked with fifth graders to create leadership opportunities and has created an equitable way to do that across the entire fifth grade, and has affected the kinds of things that we would want to see happening across the school, but also then creating leaders that can go from primary school to middle school and then continue that leadership like those we see here come before us. So a shout out to him. The focus for Boone's Ferry is on social and emotional learning, inclusive practices. And I said, well, what about your math? And they said, you know, as I would have expected, we know that if we're doing the social and emotional learning and inclusive practices, that we're going to see growth in those areas. And so they also have replaced the Tuesday staff by professional learning connected to student learning. Again, using data, pushing for the second steps curriculum for the social and emotional learning. And they're also doing pre-assessing at the beginning of a unit. So in order to differentiate between different students, which I think goes to again, to 1 and 2, is for each student's learning. So what do students know about math that they're learning now? And then some may already know this unit, and what are we going to do for them? How are we going to meet their needs? And others, boy, they just have this basic component missing. So really doing that assessment before they start a unit instead of just driving right into a unit that may or may not speak to that particular student or that particular group of students. And I'll be excited to see what outcomes they have from that. I think that Dr. Jensen is doing an incredible job meeting the cultural needs of the Boone's Ferry community that we may have heard about last year, and she would attribute that one of the things they're doing to try to improve outcomes, particular for like second graders and first graders that were noted in the MAP assessments, that they have new teams and new perspectives that were put in place by Dr. Freeman last year, and those are continuing to show the kinds of results that we would hope there. Then I went to Arts and Technology High School, and I want to note that their goals are the same ones that I understood they had last year, and the unqualified commitment to each and every student to reach those goals, I think year after year is important for us to note and noteworthy. They want all of their 12th grade students with 15 or more credits to successfully complete their high school success plan. They want 100% of their seniors to develop a post-high school plan and to have participated in some step towards that, and 100% of their families to be collaboratively engaged with the school. And that last goal in particular, because of the student body population, the real need for these students to get supports to get their credits to be able to graduate, they've identified how important it is to have family collaboration. The other thing I think is notable that's happening is that they're looking at their data in a way where they can celebrate successes. So instead of waiting late to say, oh, did they all graduate, did they not, they're able to say, this particular student has increased by this kind of credit. So they can see across the board how many of their students are making progress. And so, you know, they've created some graphics that I think are probably encouraging for the student body, for each student, and for their staff to note that 80% of their students are on a winning streak, so that they know that they're moving towards their goals Again, good leadership there from Saskia Dressler. What else? I was able to, I think instead of a shout out to one there, they have a team. They work as teams there. The students work, the students get together frequently in cohorts, that's not what they call them, crews. And teachers are meeting and staff are meeting collaboratively throughout the week. And they're addressing, they have a success team, or they're working also collaboratively with other high schools for ninth grade success teams. And what I'm hoping is that things they're learning that allow students to get to graduation are things that our other high schools can take and incorporate with their students as well. There's just a lot going on there. I was able to meet with the students, and I guess part of what they're doing at Arts and Technology is to make a dependent learner into an independent learner, and to gradually release the responsibility and the agency of learning to the student, which is something all of our high school students could benefit from. I did speak with the students, and I want the board to know that what I heard the students say is being able to attend Arts and Technology High School, to have the smaller classes, to having school be something they want to go to, creates hope. And thank you for the opportunity to visit those schools. I have one more to go. I'll be going to Cedar Oak next month.
Thank you, Chair Molitor. I had the chance to go to 3 schools, A.T. Creek, Beckman Creek, and Trillium Creek. And I want to talk kind of big picture and then kind of dive down into what I saw at some of the schools. So a couple of things became very clear to me. One is Vice Chair King was exactly right. Each of the schools I went into, very purposeful in what they were doing. It's easy to think that sometimes these schools are in silos or kind of aimlessly wandering through what they should be doing. That's not the case at all. When you sit down with these administrators, they have a plan for what they're doing, a very well thought out plan, which leads me to the second thing, which is that there's a very common culture in our district, from whether you're talking about the superintendent to the assistant superintendents, to the assistant superintendents to the principals, to the vice principals, all the way down to the teachers. What you see is the same things, the same type of leadership happening, the same goals being worked towards. And the best way I could put that is autonomy with a shared vision. That's just kind of kept coming back to me, autonomy with a shared vision. People are given the framework. Here's what we want to accomplish. Here's what our goals are. Now go out and accomplish these goals in the best way that you can figure out how, and then come back and let's see what you learned, figure out what we can do better. What did you do that worked? What did I do that worked? Let's see what we can do. And going back to my social studies teacher days, it reminded me of the lesson I had about the 50 states being laboratories of democracy. I feel like we have kind of laboratories of education in each of our schools, and that was really powerful to see. And there's an example at Trillium I'm going to mention later. And so as I went to the schools, I thought a lot about board goal number 1, grow student achievement through the use of high leverage instructional engagement strategies, and talking with them about what Dr. Swason talks about, ways we move the needle, what actually improves student outcomes. And so specifically when I went to each school, I toured classrooms, and what I saw in every single classroom without exception was, 1, learning targets were posted in conspicuous locations, as been mentioned. Students were doing the talking. For those of us who haven't been in public classrooms in 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, you would be shocked to see how much students are doing the leading and doing the talking. And then also not only talking to the teacher, but conferring with each other. And those are the 3 of the top 4 things that we know make a difference. And so to see that in every classroom I went into, and every school I went into, showed that our schools are on the cutting edge of educational achievement, science, knowing what works. And I also made sure I talked to every principal and assistant principal in IC about the importance of professional learning communities. And so I'll get to that with each school. First, I was at A.T. Creek with Mr. Sebastian, who's here tonight. And what I really appreciated about that was this was the first time a principal emailed me ahead of time saying, here's the agenda, here's what we're going to cover. Do you have any questions before we get there? And that really helped streamline the process. So thank you for that, Mr. Sebastian. we spent a lot of time talking about professional learning communities, and what we talked about was what we all know, which is that this is the most valuable thing for kids for moving the needle, but only if it's done correctly. It's really easy to have PLCs and just have it squandered, not used in a useful way. And so we talked about what he did to ensure that it was as useful as possible, and it was actually really insightful. Some of the things that he did is, I had never heard of this before, but he actually has his PLCs meet about three times every week, and they're able to do this during school because he has prep periods, the calendar, which took a tremendous amount of effort, so that all the science teachers at a particular grade have the same prep period. All the math teachers at a particular grade have the same prep, so they can meet 10, 15, 20 minutes 3 times a week and share what's working and what's not working. To help make sure it's effective, he has every one of his teams answer these questions. What do we want the kids to know or learn? How do we know if they learned it? What do we do if they didn't learn it? And what do we do if they did learn it? And then report back what they had done. And they talked about deprivatizing the classroom. And what's impressive is that Mr. Sebastian and his team, it's not just a superficial inquiry, but it's a deeper inquiry. Like, what does deprivatizing mean? And what he found is that teachers are oftentimes very good about sharing what works, but not always so good at sharing what doesn't work, which in some cases is more valuable. And so he's making sure they fully deprivatize and not just the successes. And he checks in with his PLCs. He gives them the power to make the plans. What are your goals? But then checks in on them to make sure those goals are actually being reached and worked towards. And we also had a really insightful discussion with his team about the difference between growth and achievement, something that I didn't know much about. And what Mr. Sebastian talked about with me is that Athey Creek's a very high-functioning middle school with state test scores on average 15 to 20 points higher than the rest of the state. But it's really easy to become complacent with those test scores to say, hey, look how good they are. And that's why at Athey they focus more on growth rather than achievement, because growth ensures that we're actually focusing on improvement, not just maintaining the status quo. Quickly, at Beckman Creek, I had the chance to meet with Principal Lindy Sproul and her instructional coordinator, Carrie Gubbins. And what's great about this duo is that they've been working together at Beckman Creek for 7 years. So there's really a sense of continuity, stability there. And when you meet with them, there's a really strong sense of they complement each other's skills very well. And so we talked at their school about what they're doing to move the needle. And one of the things they talked about was increasing attendance, because at Beckman Creek, 18% of the students missed 10% of the school year on average, which, while that's on par for the rest of the state, that's much higher than most of our district. And so what Mrs. Sproul talked about is they have a policy. If a kid misses 2 days in a row, the teacher's calling home. If it misses 3 or more days, she's calling home. And they really, because attendance is so important for student success, they manage this on a case-by-case basis. So is it an anxiety issue? Is it a transportation issue? Is the student living in a house where there's 5 children in a bedroom, including teenagers, so they can't go to sleep until midnight? And then working with families to try to find ways to solve those problems. They talked about math scores being possibly not as high as they'd like because of over-scaffolding, which means they were actually offering the kids too much help. And they talked about the value of letting kids enter that learning pit. So rather than building a bridge for them to always get to the right answer, letting them have some of that discomfort of not knowing what to do, and then conducting a formative assessment along the way to find out, okay, what do they need help with, what don't they need help with, so that we're not wasting time teaching them things they already know and giving them a chance to learn. And then, of course, talked about collaborative planning the same way as we did at Athey. In this case, a lot of the same focuses, deprivatizing classrooms, teachers are broken out at grade level, and they also, again, that modeling at different levels, as all the principals have, there is triads. There are triads with Beckman Creek, with Lowry and Boones Ferry. And so it was a very humble servant leadership at that school, which I really honor that and respect that and like to see that modeled. And lastly, at Trillium Creek, I met with Principal Kate Donegan and her IC, Christina Freeman. Again, right at the outset, she says, these are our school goals. The way we reach these goals is we first looked at the district goals, and that was her starting point. Their goals there would increase every student's grade level in math and language arts by 1 year. If they were behind grade level, they wanted to see 1 1/3 years growth. They discussed some of the same challenging, over-scaffolding is being addressed. When they're looking at what's working at different grade levels and what's looking at different schools. And so this is kind of that laboratories of education. What I saw is we have Principal Donegan actually looking out at other schools, other grades, saying, hey, what's working over here? And then a really interesting question she had is, it's not just enough to succeed, but we have to know why we're succeeding. And she asked, are we leading or are we lucky? And if we're actually leading, we know why we're succeeding, and we can generalize that to other programs, other teachers, and other grade levels. And she also had multiple professional learning committees, not just by grade level, but also by subject matters. And she also worked with each one of those, recognizing that some had strong PLCs, some had weaker, and she was working closely to make sure the ones that were weaker had all the support they needed to improve. So as I was last year, very impressed. I wish that all the parents in the district had the opportunity to see what I did. Mr. Sebastian pointed out the author Richard Dufour, who was a book that Dr. Ludwig gave me to read, which is that the field of education in general in this country may have more advancements than maybe any other field except for electronics. In the last 50 years, it's a field where what students are learning now is so much greater than what they were learning 20 and 40 years ago, and we're on the cutting edge of that as a district, and I'm just really proud of what I saw.
Thank you. I'm going to start by just giving my overall thoughts as well. And my overall thoughts very much mirrors what my colleagues does as well, in that just being so impressed with the intentional thought that goes into every single school day, from the district office down to our administrators, down to our teachers, and just what goes on behind the scenes to make sure that what happens in our classrooms means something isn't intentional and results in learning. So, and I would kind of echo what you said. As a former biology teacher, I see that as a huge difference back from when I was teaching and walked in the classroom and taught my curriculum, but it wasn't necessarily driven by district goals or wasn't uniform. We didn't have district goals that were uniform across the board. So again, just being impressed with, gosh, this is amazing that all this thought that goes behind what our students are getting in the classrooms. So first I'm going to talk about the cycles of inquiry that I saw at each one of the schools, and then I'll talk about some of the themes that I saw. And as I mentioned, I'm not mentioning all of the cycles of inquiry that were presented to me, just highlighting. The first place I got to visit, Willamette Primary. And I also just want to thank the administrators who met me at each school, and it was just such a warm environment everywhere I went. And I think I always overstayed my welcome, so I want to apologize for that as well. Because it is fun to be in the schools and talk to students and hear what's going on. So at Willamette, there are two cycles of an inquiry or kind of focus were increased growth and achievement in mathematics for all students. I think that's something that we're hearing across the board, as well as a focus on social emotional learning. Specifically expanding the toolbox of strategies used to help students self-regulate. As well as creating strong connections with each student. Last year, they surveyed their students, and 80% of them said that they had connections to at least 3 adults at Willamette. And their goal this year is to have 100% of their students feel known, cared for, and connected to Willamette. The evidence that I saw that they are working toward this goal, I had the opportunity to meet with 6 students, and they were asked a series of questions, and several of those questions focused on what are the adults doing here to help you feel connected. When asked what helps you feel most connected and involved in your class, all 3 students who answered said their teachers and the staff. They mentioned paraeducators, they mentioned librarians, so not just the main teacher in their classroom, but other people. I think a custodian was also mentioned as well. So they didn't mention the other students in their class. They really did focus on these educators being the ones that help them feel connected at school. When asked, think of a time at school when you were worried or upset, how did adults and or friends help you during this time? Every student responded with incidents about teachers and staff comforting them. I thought it was interesting too, one student mentioned being sent to the principal's office for doing something bad, that was his language, and that when he got there, he discovered that the focus was on solving the problem versus being punished. And just what a difference that made in that whole day for him and that whole situation. So at Meridian Creek Middle School, the focus was on support for emerging bilingual students. First of all, to see an increase in reading levels for emerging bilingual students as measured by MAP reading during the 2019-20 testing windows. And then also coming off that goal would be OSAS and SBAC scores will show growth in vocabulary for all students at Meridian Creek Middle School, recognizing that when we focus on increasing the vocabulary of our emerging bilinguals, it also helps all of our students. It helps the vocabulary of all of the students. A little bit of background that Principal Olson shared was that middle school students are exposed to 10,000 new words every year, and they are expected to incorporate 3,000 of those into their language and to learn them. And what they have found, that data says that students need about 13 to 17 interactions with each word in order to be able to comfortably and successfully learn that vocabulary. So the evidence that I saw of them working toward that goal in the science class that we had the opportunity to go into, the teacher actually had a word wall, and that is also the second quarter goal of all of the teachers at Meridian Creek. A word wall with several vocabulary words: valence, cation, anion, covalent, ionic. They were studying chemistry. And the teacher was asking specific questions that required the students to use the vocabulary that was on that word wall in their answer. And when they did answer with that vocabulary, then having the entire classroom repeat those words, especially in science, because it's hard. Students are very apprehensive about pronouncing some of those words that can be tricky. And as a science teacher, I was apprehensive about pronouncing some of those words. So just continually, getting them used to using that word and pronouncing it correctly. Let's see. And then at Wilsonville High School, focus on instruction and support of freshmen. So their goal is 100% of freshman students will be on track at the end of the school year, meaning that they will have earned 6 credits toward graduation. And then also eliminating the discrepancy between student groups in those on track end of freshman year. So making sure that there aren't achievement gaps between different groups of students. The evidence is that they have created a freshman success team that's focused on instructional practices, assessment, and relationships. They have a dedicated additional professional development time for collaboration between these teachers. These teachers use that time to monitor and discuss progress of their students that they share, to discuss strategies for encouraging these students and making sure that they're seeing success in all of their classes. I had the opportunity to visit these classrooms with the freshmen that kind of were on this freshman success team. And then I also had the opportunity to listen to a focus group of some students that were in the same freshman team. All of them said that their transition to high school was easy, possibly in part because they're in this new freshman success team. They all mentioned the willingness of these teachers to help them be successful. And they did add, here's the thing that they wanted the school board to know, so I wanted to make sure. This is kind of off track, but I told them I would share. They would like more life skills classes like home economics, cooking, personal finance, so they check writing, bill paying, how a credit card works, how to do your taxes and such, and just basic car maintenance as far as how to fix a flat tire and how to check oil. So I know. I was thinking, gosh, those would all be great skills for me to have as well. So that was Wilsonville High School. So some shared themes that I saw across all 3 schools, the emphasis on social emotional learning, and also the emphasis on increasing math and reading scores on statewide assessments. Some of the new learnings that I had, just, again, I said this at the beginning, the intentional school-wide instruction that results from these cycles of inquiry that come down from our district goals. And then the other thing I would say too is just that whole idea that all of the different new words that our students are exposed to every year, the number of words we're expecting them on average to take in, and then that reminder that it's 13 to 17 times before they're able to take those words in. As far as board goals in action, where I saw those at Willamette, the professional learning teams that meet regularly to collaborate and create to Goal 1, high-level instructional strategies that will benefit all students. Specifically, they're getting together, they're planning math units together, and utilizing these new strategies to increase those math scores. At Meridian Creek, I would say the use of the word wall to help emerging bilinguals and all students increase their vocabulary. Speaking to the equitable outcomes for all of our students while eliminating opportunity and achievement gaps. And finally, at Wilsonville High School, the use of the freshman teaching teams to raise the success, once again, of all of our students as teachers collaborate to instruct, assess, and build the competence and accountability of the freshmen they teach. And this was my first time in this process, so as far as I'm concerned, it was good. I have nothing to compare it to, and I'm looking forward to go back again next year.